Hi everyone, I'm Wanda, 28 years old, and I'm so glad you're here. I really enjoy relaxing with Minecraft and diving into Reddit stories, and today I've got another one to share with you, so find a comfy spot and let's get started. Reddit, I'm sitting here at 2 a.m. staring at my phone, debating whether to call my younger brother for the 50th time this month, knowing he won't answer. I'm 34F, he's 26M, and until 6 months ago, I thought we had the closest sibling relationship imaginable. Now, I'm wondering if everything I sacrificed for the past 8 years was just me being the world's biggest fool. I'm a registered nurse working at a county hospital. Not exactly rolling in money, but decent, steady income. My brother Ethan just landed his dream job as a software engineer at one of those big tech companies everyone wants to work for. Starting salary, $140,000 plus stock options and benefits that are worth more than I make in a year. You'd think this would be cause for celebration, right? After everything we've been through together. After all the sacrifices I made to get him where he is today. This should be the moment where we both finally get to breathe and enjoy the success we worked so hard for. Instead, Ethan has completely ghosted me. No phone calls, no text messages, no acknowledgement that I even exist. When I try to reach out, I get radio silence. When I showed up at his new apartment last month, he wouldn't even open the door, though I could hear his TV and knew he was home. Here's the backstory that makes this betrayal so much worse. Our parents died in a car accident when Ethan was 16 and I was 24. I was fresh out of nursing school, just starting my career, barely making ends meet in a tiny studio apartment. But when Child Services told me that Ethan would go into foster care unless a family member could take guardianship, there was never any question in my mind. I became Ethan's legal guardian, moved to a 2-bedroom apartment I couldn't afford, and completely restructured my entire life around raising a traumatized teenager while working full-time in one of the most demanding professions on earth. For the next 2 years, I was basically a single parent to a kid who was struggling with grief, anger, and typical teenage bullshit all at the same time. I helped him graduate high school, supported him through therapy, made sure he had everything he needed to succeed despite our circumstances. When Ethan decided he wanted to go to college for computer science, I was thrilled. The kid was brilliant with technology, always had been, and I knew he could build an amazing career if he got the right education. But here's the thing, we had no money for college. Our parents had died with basically nothing, and I was already stretching every dollar just to keep us housed and fed. When Ethan got accepted to State University for computer science, I knew we had a problem. Even with in-state tuition, we were looking at about $25,000 per year for tuition, room, board, and expenses. Financial aid covered some of it, but we still needed to come up with about $15,000 annually that we simply didn't have. I could have told Ethan he'd need to take out massive student loans, or go to community college first, or find some other solution that didn't involve me basically bankrupting myself. Any reasonable person would have done that. Instead, I decided to make it work. Because Ethan was my little brother, and he'd already lost so much, and I couldn't bear the thought of his dreams being limited by our circumstances. I picked up extra shifts at the hospital nights, weekends, holidays, anything I could get. I moved to an even smaller apartment to save on rent. I sold my car and took the bus to work. I stopped eating out entirely, lived on rice and beans, and whatever was on clearance at the grocery store. I canceled my gym membership, my Netflix subscription, anything that wasn't absolutely essential. For 4 years, I worked 60, 70 hours a week and sent every spare dollar to pay for Ethan's education. While my friends were going on vacations, dating, building their careers, I was living like a monk so my brother could get his degree debt-free. The hardest part wasn't even the financial sacrifice. It was the social isolation. I couldn't afford to go out with friends, couldn't date because I had no money and no time, couldn't pursue any of my own interests or goals because every ounce of my energy was going toward keeping Ethan in school. I remember one particularly brutal winter when I got pneumonia from working too many double shifts and not taking care of myself properly. I was so sick I could barely stand, but I still dragged myself to work because missing shifts meant missing money, and missing money meant Ethan might have to drop out. Ethan would call me from school, excited about his classes, his professors, the projects he was working on. He'd tell me about parties he went to, spring break trips with friends, internships he was applying for. Meanwhile, I was eating ramen noodles for the 3rd day in a row and trying to figure out how to stretch $20 until my next paycheck. But I never resented it, hearing the excitement in Ethan's voice, knowing he was thriving and building toward a bright future, made all the sacrifice feel worth it. He was getting opportunities I'd never had, and he was making the most of them. During his junior year, Ethan landed a prestigious internship at a tech startup. The internship was unpaid, which meant I had to cover his living expenses for the summer while he gained valuable experience. I took on even more shifts, worked myself to exhaustion, but I made it happen because I knew this internship could lead to great job opportunities after graduation. Maya, I can't thank you enough for everything you're doing, Ethan would tell me during our weekly phone calls. I know how hard you're working to make this possible. When I graduate and get a good job, I'm going to pay you back for everything. We're going to be able to travel together. You can finally take some time for yourself. Maybe go back to school if you want. This is all going to be worth it. Those conversations kept me going through the darkest moments. The promise that this was temporary, that we were building toward a future where we could both enjoy the fruits of our labor, made every sacrifice feel meaningful. Senior year was the hardest financially. Ethan's course load was intense, so he couldn't work part-time like he had in previous years. His program required expensive software and equipment. There were application fees for graduate programs and job interviews that required travel. I maxed out my credit cards, took out a personal loan, even borrowed money from coworkers to make sure Ethan had everything he needed to finish strong. By the time he graduated, I was about $30,000 in debt and hadn't taken a real vacation in 4 years. But when I sat in that auditorium, watching Ethan walk across the stage to receive his diploma, magna cum laude in computer science, I felt like it was all worth it. My little brother had not only survived losing our parents and being raised by his overwhelmed older sister, he had excelled. He was about to start a career that would give him financial security and opportunities I could never have provided on my nurse's salary. After graduation, Ethan moved back in with me temporarily while he job hunted. I was excited to have him home, and honestly, it was nice to have help with the rent for the first time in years. Ethan got a part-time tech support job to contribute to household expenses while he applied for full-time positions. The job search went incredibly well. Ethan's grades, internship experience, and portfolio of projects made him a strong candidate. Within 3 months, he had multiple offers from good companies. But the offer that really blew us away came from Technova, one of those companies you read about in business magazines. They offered Ethan a starting salary of $140,000, plus a $20,000 signing bonus, stock options, full health insurance, 3 weeks paid vacation, and a relocation package to move to their headquarters in Austin. For a 22-year-old fresh out of college, it was an absolutely incredible opportunity. Maya, can you believe this? Ethan was practically bouncing off the walls when he got the call. This is exactly what we worked for. They want me to start in 2 months, which gives us time to celebrate and plan the move. We went out to dinner that night. The first time I'd eaten at a restaurant that wasn't McDonald's in probably 2 years. Ethan insisted on paying, which felt symbolic somehow. He talked about his plans for the job, how excited he was to finally be financially independent, how grateful he was for everything I'd done. I'm going to pay off all your debt first thing, he promised over dessert. And then we're going to plan that Europe trip we always talked about. You deserve to see the world after everything you sacrificed for me. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. Ethan found an apartment in Austin, arranged for his relocation, bought professional clothes for his new job. I helped him pack, drove him to the airport, hugged him goodbye with tears in my eyes. I'll call you as soon as I get settled, he said. And Maya, thank you for everything. I literally couldn't have done any of this without you. For the first few weeks after Ethan moved to Austin, everything seemed normal. He called regularly to tell me about his new job, his apartment, the city. He sounded happy and excited, adjusting well to his new life. We video chatted so I could see his new place, and I felt this incredible pride watching him in his professional environment. But then something started to change. The phone calls became less frequent. When we did talk, Ethan seemed distracted, like he was rushing to get off the phone. He stopped asking about my life, my work, how I was doing. Our conversations became one-sided reports about his job and his new lifestyle. After about 6 weeks, I realized I was always the one initiating contact. Ethan never called me anymore. He'd only respond when I called him. And even then, the conversations were brief and felt obligatory. Is everything okay? I asked during one particularly short call. You seem different lately. Everything's fine, Maya. I'm just really busy with work, trying to establish myself here. New job, new city. You know how it is. But I didn't know how it was, because I'd never had the opportunity to start fresh in a new city with a dream job and unlimited possibilities. 2 months after Ethan started his new job, the calls stopped entirely. When I tried calling him, it would ring a few times and go to voicemail. My texts went unanswered. I started to worry that something had happened to him. I called Technova's main number and asked to be transferred to Ethan's department, just to make sure he was okay. The receptionist confirmed that he was still employed there and offered to take a message, but Ethan never called back. That's when I realized this wasn't about being busy with work. Ethan was deliberately avoiding me. The silence from Ethan became the most painful thing I'd ever experienced. After 8 years of daily communication, after being the most important person in each other's lives, I suddenly didn't exist in his world anymore. I tried everything I could think of to reach him. I sent emails to his personal account, his work account, even tried messaging him through LinkedIn. I mailed letters to his apartment address. I left voicemails that ranged from concerned to angry to heartbroken. Nothing. Complete radio silence. 3 months into the ghosting, I was desperate enough to reach out to some of Ethan's college friends to see if they'd heard from him. That's when I discovered something that made the betrayal even worse. Ethan had been posting regularly on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, sharing photos of his new life in Austin, pictures of him at expensive restaurants, fancy bars, weekend trips to other cities, photos with new coworkers and friends, looking happy and carefree. But here's the kicker. In every single post where he talked about his journey or his success, I was completely erased from the story. According to Ethan's social media presence, he was a self-made success who had worked hard and sacrificed everything to build his career. One post in particular felt like a knife to the heart. 2 years ago, I was just a broke college student with big dreams. Today, I'm living in an amazing city, working for an incredible company. finally able to enjoy the financial freedom I've worked so hard for. Proof that if you're willing to sacrifice and put in the work, you can achieve anything. Blessed, self-made, never give up. Self-made. He called himself self-made. I screenshotted that post and stared at it for hours, trying to process the complete rewriting of history it represented. According to Ethan's version of events, his success was entirely due to his own hard work and sacrifice. The 8 years I spent working myself to exhaustion, the $30,000 in debt I took on, the complete restructuring of my life around his education. None of that existed in his narrative. I was so hurt and angry that I almost commented on the post, almost publicly called him out for erasing my role in his success. But I didn't want to embarrass him or create drama on social media. I still hoped we could work this out privately. 4 months into the silence, I decided to take drastic action. I used some of my vacation time from work, bought a plane ticket to Austin, and showed up at Ethan's apartment complex unannounced. I waited in the lobby for 3 hours until I saw him come home from work. When he saw me sitting there, the look on his face wasn't surprise or joy. It was annoyance and something that looked almost like embarrassment. Maya, what are you doing here? What am I doing here? Ethan, you've been ignoring me for 4 months. I was worried something had happened to you. I've been busy. I told you that. Starting a new job is demanding. I'm too busy to return a single phone call. Too busy to respond to texts from your sister, who raised you and put you through college. Ethan looked around the lobby nervously, like he was embarrassed to be seen having this conversation. Look, can we not do this here? People from work live in this building, then invite me up to your apartment so we can talk privately. I can't, I have plans tonight. Ethan, what is going on? Why are you treating me like a stranger? I'm not treating you like a stranger. I'm just trying to establish my independence. I need space to build my own life. Space from what? From the person who sacrificed everything to get you where you are today. I never asked you to do that. The words hit me like a physical blow. I never asked you to do that. You never asked me to do what exactly? Take care of you after our parents died. Pay for your education. Support you through college. What part of that did you not ask for? I was grateful for your help, but that doesn't mean I owe you my entire adult life. Help, he called 8 years of complete self-sacrifice help, standing in that apartment lobby, looking at my little brother, the person I'd given up everything for. I finally understood what was happening. Ethan wasn't just establishing independence. He was embarrassed by me. In his new world of tech professionals and high salaries and sophisticated city living, I was a reminder of where he came from. I represented struggle, sacrifice, and a chapter of his life he wanted to close. Ethan, I don't want your entire adult life. I just want my brother back. We used to talk every day. We used to be each other's family. We'll always be family, Maya. But I'm 26 years old. I can't be checking in with you every day like I'm still in high school. I'm not asking you to check in every day. I'm asking you to not completely disappear from my life. After everything we've been through together, I haven't disappeared. I've just been busy getting established here. You've been posting on social media constantly. Ethan, you've had time to make new friends, join a gym, explore the city. You just haven't had time for me. That's different. That's building my life here. And apparently, I don't fit into that life anymore. Ethan didn't deny it. He just stood there looking uncomfortable, like he was waiting for me to leave so he could get back to his evening plans. I saw your post about being self-made, I said quietly. Is that really how you remember the last 8 years? Maya, please don't make this dramatic. You know I appreciate everything you did. Do I? Because from where I'm standing, it seems like you want to pretend those years never happened. I don't want to pretend anything. I just don't want to be defined by them forever. I want to be known for my own accomplishments, not as someone who needed help. And there it was, the truth I'd been trying not to see. Ethan was ashamed of needing help. He was ashamed of our circumstances, our struggles, the fact that his success hadn't come from his own resources. In his mind, acknowledging my role in his education somehow diminished his achievements. Your accomplishments are your own, Ethan. Your intelligence, your work ethic, your talent, those all came from you. I just made sure you had the opportunity to use them. I know that, and I'm grateful, but I need to move forward now. And moving forward means leaving me behind. It means building an adult relationship with appropriate boundaries. Appropriate boundaries. Like not talking to your sister for 4 months is an appropriate boundary. I left Austin that night knowing I'd lost my brother. Not to death or distance, but to success and shame, and the desire to reinvent himself without any reminders of where he came from. 6 months later, I'm still processing the grief of losing Ethan. It's different from when our parents died. That was a tragedy that happened to us. This is a choice Ethan made. I've been in therapy trying to work through the anger and hurt. My therapist says it's common for people who have received significant help to distance themselves from the helpers as a way of protecting their self-image. It doesn't make it less painful, but it helps me understand that this says more about Ethan's insecurities than about our relationship. I'm also working on rebuilding my own life. For 8 years, everything I did was oriented around Ethan's needs and goals. Now, for the first time since I was 24, I get to figure out what I want. I'm taking classes to get my nurse practitioner certification, something I never had time or money for before. I'm dating again, slowly. I'm planning a solo trip to Europe with money I'm saving now that I'm not supporting anyone else. Update 8 months later. Ethan sent me a text last week. Just happy birthday, Maya. Nothing else. I didn't respond. 2 days later, he sent another text. I know you're angry, but I hope we can talk someday. I miss you too. I stared at that message for hours before deleting it. Maybe someday I'll be ready to rebuild our relationship on his terms. But right now, I'm focused on building a life that doesn't revolve around someone else's dreams. I've learned that you can love someone completely and still have them choose to walk away. I sacrificed 8 years for Ethan's future, and he got everything he wanted. Now it's my turn. So Reddit, how do you move on when the person you sacrificed everything for decides you're not worth keeping in their success story? Edit, for everyone saying I was too generous. You're right, but I'd do it again for someone who valued what I gave. Edit 2, to those asking if I regret it. I regret that Ethan turned out to be someone who could discard family so easily. I don't regret trying to give him opportunities. What would you do if someone you'd sacrificed everything for erased you from their success story?